Imagine the sound of a siren. Loud, piercing, designed to cut through ambient noise and alert everyone within a mile radius. Now, imagine that siren is strapped to your chest. It weighs 30 pounds, and it activates randomly because it dropped a cracker. In a standard survival scenario, a crying toddler is a stressor. In an evasion scenario, where automated hunter drones are scanning for audio spikes above 60 decibels, a crying toddler is a beacon. It is a death sentence. Most preppers fantasize about being the lone wolf, moving silent and fast through the brush. But that is not your reality. You are the leader of a family unit. You are a pack mule, a negotiator, and a mobile shield. If you try to apply lone survivor logic to a family bug-out, you will fail within 6 hours. The drones don't care about your rifle caliber. They care about the thermal bloom of a feverish child and the acoustic signature of a tantrum. Today, we are stripping away the fantasy. We are talking about the brutal logistics of keeping tiny humans alive, fed, and quiet when the sky is listening. Here is the hard truth. Toddlers are liabilities. I say that with love, but survival does not care about sentiment. They have narrow thermal regulation windows, zero situational awareness, and specific nutritional requirements that you cannot scavenge from a dumpster. While you are worried about zombies or raiders, the real threats are dehydration, hypothermia, and the inability to move faster than 1 mile per hour. This protocol is built on the family unit doctrine. We are going to cover the caloric math of carrying a kid plus 40 pounds of gear. We will discuss the silence discipline required to keep a 2-year-old quiet when a patrol sweeps your sector. And we will solve the sanitation nightmare of changing diapers in a chemically hostile environment. If you are responsible for young lives, you need to understand that your bug-out bag is wrong. Your route is wrong. And your expectations are likely fatal. Before we step off into the dark, you need to secure your spot for the next briefing. The grid is fragile, and information is weightless. Subscribe now. The pavement on I-95 wasn't just cracked, it was heaved upward like tectonic plates had shifted overnight. You're pushing a high-end jogging stroller, the kind with the rugged pneumatic tires that cost you $400. Inside is your 3-year-old and about 50 pounds of supplies. It worked great in the suburbs, but here, amidst the wreckage of the evacuation corridor, it's a nightmare. The front wheel jams into a fissure in the asphalt. The frame torques. Your kid jolts awake and lets out a confused wail. High above, through the cloud layer, you hear the low-frequency thrum of a drone swarm reorienting. They heard the metal clack of the stroller axle. You freeze. You have 3 seconds to decide. Do you abandon the stroller and the 50 pounds of food inside to run into the woods with just the kid? Or do you try to wrestle the wheel free and risk the thermal scan? You wrench the handle. The plastic snaps. Now you have a crying child, a broken cart, and a drone locking onto your position. This is the moment the gear you trusted betrays you. That scenario plays out in every disaster simulation involving families. The failure point is the mule fallacy. Parents assume they can simply scale up their gear. They think, I can hike with a 40-pound pack, so I'll just put the kid in a stroller and pile the gear on top. It works on a smooth track. It fails immediately in rubble, mud, or snow. When the stroller breaks or the terrain forces you off-road to avoid checkpoints, you are suddenly carrying a 30-pound child plus 60 pounds of gear. That is 90 pounds. Unless you are a Tier 1 operator in peak condition, you are not moving that load more than 500 yards. I've seen fathers in evacuation footage abandon crucial water supplies because they physically could not lift their child and the bag at the same time. They chose the kid, obviously, but without the water, they were on a timer. The mistake was relying on wheels in a world where infrastructure has collapsed. You built a plan around a sidewalk that no longer exists. The solution is redundancy and modularity. You need a 3-layer system. Layer 1 is the carrier. Not a cheap cloth sling, but a structured hiking carrier with a sturdy hip belt. This puts the child, your most precious cargo, on your torso, leaving your hands free for navigation or defense. Layer 2 is the diaper module. This isn't buried in the bottom of a backpack. It is a detachable pod clipped to the outside of your kit. If you have to dump your main pack to run, you unclip the diaper module and the kid stays strapped to you. Layer 3 is the vehicle, but you treat it as a luxury, not a necessity. Use a wagon or stroller for the easy miles, but assume you will abandon it. Pack your kit so that the moment the terrain turns to mud, you can snatch the go bag and the child and leave the heavy cart behind. Research shows that in high-stress evacuations, families who couldn't transition from rolling to carrying within 60 seconds got stuck in the kill zone. Test your loadout. Put the kid in the carrier, put on your pack, and walk 5 kilometers. If your knees buckle, you are carrying too much fear and not enough logic. Now, let's layer on the specific threat. Alien or AI drones scanning for thermal signatures. A child in a carrier against your back creates a massive, concentrated heat signature. You are essentially a double boiler of metabolic heat. If the drones are looking for human-shaped heat gradients, 2 humans fused together is a high-priority target. Standard nylon carriers offer 0 thermal masking. To counter this, your family unit protocol needs a thermal breakup strategy. You need a mylar emergency poncho, but not worn tight. It needs to be draped loosely over both you and the child carrier, creating an air gap that diffuses the heat signature. Yes, it will get stuffy. Yes, the kid might complain. But a diffused, amorphous heat blob looks like a deer or a heated rock to a high-altitude sensor. A sharp, human-shaped outline looks like a target. You also need to realise that the stroller you abandoned, if it was heated by the sun, it might draw a drone's attention for a few seconds. Use that. Decoys buy time, but never, ever let the child walk beside you in an open field during a scan. Their smaller heat signature is distinct and easily categorised by AI targeting algorithms. It is hour 14. You are holed up in the shell of a gas station. The power's out, and the only light comes from the red sweep of a scanner drone passing the window. Your 4-year-old is on the floor, and they aren't just hungry, they are in full metabolic collapse. They aren't crying, they are lethargic, refusing to move, refusing to drink. Then the switch flips. The blood sugar hits the basement, and the tantrum begins. It's primal. They scream for nuggets, for milk, for anything familiar. You try to shove a freeze-dried beef stroganoff ration into their mouth. The texture makes them gag. They spit it out, wasting calories you can't spare, and scream louder. The drone outside pauses its sweep. It heard the retching sound. It rotates its optical sensor toward the glass. You have a hysterical, starving child who is physically rejecting the only fuel you have, and that rejection is about to bring a Hellfire missile through the roof. The error here is assuming a toddler is just a small adult. Preppers stock MREs and high-sodium freeze-dried meals because they are efficient. But disaster nutrition research shows that under extreme stress, toddlers regress. They reject new textures. Their digestive systems shut down. If you feed a dehydrated 2-year-old a high-sodium MRE, you are going to cause diarrhea, which accelerates dehydration and increases the sanitation risk. Or they will simply refuse to eat until they enter a hypoglycemic shock state. In that state, they cannot regulate their emotions. A hungry adult gets grumpy. A hungry toddler becomes a noise siren that cannot be silenced with logic. You cannot reason with a glucose crash. If your bug-out food plan relies on your kid eating what they're given because they're hungry, you are betting your life on a biological impossibility. They will starve, they will scream, and they will get you caught. Let's do the math. A mobile toddler needs roughly 1,000 to 1,400 calories a day. In a cold, high-stress environment, aim for the upper limit. But the form of those calories matters more than the number. You need familiar, high-density, ready-to-eat foods. No cooking, no rehydrating. Cooking requires heat, and heat attracts thermal drones. Rehydrating requires water, which is heavy. Your kit must contain commercial toddler pouches, fruit and grain blends. They are heavy, yes, but they provide hydration and familiarity. Pack nut butters in single-serve packets. That is dense fat for brain function and warmth. Soft granola bars, not the crunchy kind that sound like a gunshot in a quiet room. And specifically for the family unit protocol, chocolate. Not as a treat, but as a tactical sedative. A small piece of chocolate can arrest a panic spiral by triggering a dopamine hit. We call this compliance fuel. Pack 3 days of food that your child has actually eaten before. Do a field test. If they won't eat the energy bar at home on a Tuesday, they won't eat it in a ditch on Doomsday. Here is the drone-specific complication: packaging noise. Have you ever tried to open a foil MRE wrapper or a bag of chips silently? It generates a high-frequency crinkle that cuts through ambient background noise. Modern surveillance drones use audio triangulation algorithms tuned to anomalous transients, sharp, unnatural sounds. A crinkling wrapper is distinct from wind or rustling leaves. If you are in a silence zone, feeding your child becomes a tactical operation. You need to repackage everything before you leave. Transfer dry snacks into cloth bags or soft silicone containers that open silently. If you must use commercial pouches, you pierce them with a knife rather than tearing the perforated edge, which creates a snap. And you teach your child the quiet chew. Crunchy foods are banned in the hide site. The sound of a toddler crunching a dry cracker can be heard 5 meters away. In a close quarters evasion scenario, that's enough to lead a hunter-killer unit right to your closet door. You are pinned down in a covert. It's raining, but the runoff is oily and toxic. You have an 8-month-old infant. They need a bottle. You have a can of powdered formula and a Nalgene bottle of treated water. But it's pitch black. You're trying to scoop the powder into the narrow neck of the bottle by feel. Your hands are shaking from adrenaline. You spill half the scoop onto your wet pants. The baby smells the milk and starts to whimper, that ramping up sound that precedes a full-blown scream. You mix what you can, but the water is cold. The powder clumps. It doesn't dissolve. You shove the nipple into the baby's mouth, but the nipple clogs instantly with a chunk of undissolved powder. The baby sucks, gets nothing, and the whimper explodes into a shriek. The audio sensors on the perimeter fence, 200 yards away, swivel toward you. You are fighting physics and chemistry in the dark, and you are losing. The failure here was relying on process during a crisis. Powdered formula is lightweight, which makes it attractive for bug-out bags. But it requires clean water, a mixing vessel, agitation, and time. In a threat environment, you often have none of those. Furthermore, relying on scavenging water to mix formula is a high-stakes gamble. If the water source is contaminated with heavy metals or chemicals from the drone bombardment, standard filters won't catch it all. An adult might get a stomachache. An infant will get organ failure or severe diarrhea, which dehydrates them fatally in hours. The other mistake parents make is rationing water for themselves and the kids equally. A toddler dehydrates faster than you. Their surface area to volume ratio is different. If they stop making wet diapers, you are already in the danger zone. By the time their lips are dry, you are looking at an IV intervention that you don't have. For the first 72 hours, efficiency trumps weight. If you have an infant, you pack ready-to-feed liquid formula. Yes, it is heavy. It is mostly water weight. But it is sterile. It requires no mixing, and it can be consumed at ambient temperature. You pop the top, attach a disposable nipple, and feed. It is silent and fast. This also solves the water rationing issue. The hydration is built into the food. For toddlers, you need oral rehydration salts, ORS, or electrolyte powder. Plain water isn't enough when they are sweating from stress or the heat of the carrier. Mask the taste if you have to. If you are breastfeeding, you are the logistics hub. Your hydration needs double. You need to drink 3 litres a day to maintain supply under stress. The family unit protocol dictates that the nursing mother gets the first ration of water, always. It is not selfishness, it is production maintenance. If the mother dehydrates, the milk stops, the baby screams, and the unit is compromised. We have to talk about the output. What goes in, comes out. In a scenario with advanced tracking tech, diaper waste is a biohazard. Not just for disease, but for detection. Ammonia from urine is a volatile organic compound. Chemical sniffer drones, designed to find explosives or humans in bunkers, can detect a pile of dirty diapers from downwind. You cannot just bury them. Animals dig them up, and soil doesn't block the scent immediately. You need a containment strategy. This means bringing gallon-sized, heavy-duty Ziploc freezer bags, or better yet, Mylar bags that can be heat-sealed or taped shut. Every dirty diaper goes into a sealed bag. It stays in your pack until you can dump it in a noise zone, like a burning building or a running river that masks the signature. Never leave a diaper trail. It is literally a breadcrumb trail of DNA and chemical markers that leads right to your hiding spot. If the drones are tracking pheromones or biologicals, a dirty diaper is as loud as a flare gun. You've made it to a safe house, a basement in a suburban row home. But the sweep is starting. You hear the mechanical heavy footsteps of a hunter unit, a bipedal drone, crunching on the glass upstairs. It is listening for breathing, for heartbeats, for movement. You are huddled in the corner. Your 2-year-old is awake. They sense your fear. Their eyes go wide, their breath hitches. You know that intake of breath? It's the pre-scream wind-up. You put your hand over their mouth, but that makes them panic. They start to thrash. The floorboards creak under your struggle. The footsteps upstairs stop. The machine is processing the sound. If the kid makes a noise, the floor will be sprayed with suppression fire. You are wrestling your own child in the dark, praying for silence, while a machine calculates your coordinates. This is the nightmare of silence discipline. The instinctive reaction is to shush the child. Shh, be quiet. You say it loudly, with aggression. This fails 2 ways. First, the shush itself is a high-frequency sound that travels well. Second, the child mirrors your aggression. If you look terrified and angry, they become terrified and hysterical. Trying to physically overpower a toddler's vocal cords usually results in a louder, more desperate struggle. Parents also fail by not having a silence protocol practiced beforehand. They try to explain the danger in the moment. There are bad robots upstairs is an abstract concept to a toddler. They don't care. They care that you are squeezing them too hard. The lack of prior conditioning means you are trying to teach a new skill, absolute silence, during the most stressful moment of their life. That is a recipe for a total operational breach. Silence is a trained behavior. You need to gamify it now, before the event. Play the sleeping giant. When you give the hand signal, a closed fist, everyone freezes and becomes a statue. If they stay quiet for 1 minute, they get a reward, that tactical chocolate. Build the muscle memory so the game overrides the fear. Tactically, you need a physical silencer. For an infant or toddler, this is a pacifier. Even if you weaned them 6 months ago, put a pacifier in the bug-out bag. The sucking reflex triggers a calming response in the parasympathetic nervous system. It physically plugs the noise hole. If you are breastfeeding, the breast is the ultimate silencer. It provides food, comfort, and silence simultaneously. Do not be modest, be safe. Another tool is distraction. A glow stick, chemical light, cracked in a dark corner can mesmerize a toddler for 10 minutes. That is 10 minutes of silence you just bought for 50 cents. Visual distraction breaks the auditory loop of crying. The threat escalates when we introduce active sonar. Some advanced drone systems don't just listen. They emit ultrasonic pulses to map the room, like bats. If you are hiding under a table or behind a wall, the sound waves bounce off you. Soft materials absorb sound. Hard surfaces reflect it. A family huddled together creates a large, dense acoustic reflector. To counter this, you need to dampen your environment. Use the blankets you packed. Do not just wrap yourself in them. Drape them over your hiding spot to create a baffle. Build a pillow fort. I'm serious. A structure made of cushions, blankets, and mattresses absorbs the sonar pings and confuses the algorithm. It breaks up the hard lines of the human form. Inside this soft bunker, the sound of a whimper is also deadened. You are effectively building a recording booth to trap the toddler's noise inside, while keeping the sonar pings outside. If the drone can't get a clean bounce, and it can't hear a cry, it might mark the room as clear and move on. You survive the drones. You made it to the refugee collection point in the subway tunnel. There are 300 people here sharing 2 buckets for toilets. The air is thick. Your 3-year-old touches the wall, then touches their mouth. 12 hours later, it starts. Projectile vomiting, diarrhea, in a sealed tunnel with limited ventilation. The smell is horrific, but the medical reality is worse. The virus rips through your family unit. You are now trying to care for a sick, dehydrated child while you yourself are retching. You can't carry the gear anymore. You can't even stand up. The drones didn't need to shoot you. The microscopic biology of a crowded shelter is doing the job. You watch as your child's eyes sink back into their head from fluid loss, and you realise that hygiene wasn't a luxury. It was the primary defence system. Most people pack a small 2-ounce bottle of hand sanitizer. That is a joke. In a family unit deployment, you are changing diapers, wiping noses, and handling food in a dirty environment constantly. Fecal-oral transmission is the #1 killer of children in disaster zones. The failure comes from being polite or saving supplies. Parents let their kids crawl on the floor of the shelter because they are tired of holding them. That floor is a petri dish. They don't wash hands before opening the snacks because water is scarce. This creates a direct vector for norovirus, cholera, or E. coli. Once the child is sick, they become a noise liability and a mobility liability, too weak to walk. A sick child anchors you to one spot, and in an evasion scenario, staying still is dying. You need a hygiene firewall. This implies aggressive decontamination. Pack a large pump bottle of sanitizer, not the travel size. Pack a full pack of wet wipes, 100 count minimum. You sanitize your hands. You sanitize the child's hands. Then you sanitize them again. If you are in a fixed position, designate a clean zone and a dirty zone. Shoes come off. The crawling area is covered with a clean tarp or blanket that never touches the raw ground. You need disposable gloves for diaper changes. This seems excessive until you have no water to wash your hands after a blowout. Dealing with waste requires precision. If you are out of diapers, you need a plan for elimination that doesn't soil clothes. The potty training regression is real. Expect accidents. Pack extra underwear and bottom layers. If the kid soils their only pair of warm pants in freezing weather, you have a hypothermia case caused by sanitation failure. Here is how illness connects back to the drones. A fever acts like a thermal flare. A healthy human has a skin temperature of roughly 98 degrees. A feverish child spikes to 102 or higher. To a thermal camera calibrated to detect body heat, a feverish child glows brighter than anything else in the forest. It cuts through the background noise of the environment. If your child gets sick from poor sanitation, they become a targetable anomaly. You need antipyretics, children's Tylenol or Motrin, not just for comfort, but for camouflage. Keeping that fever down reduces their thermal signature. Liquid meds are heavy and can spill. Chewable tablets are better if age appropriate, or suppositories if the child is vomiting. Yes, it's unpleasant, but suppressing a fever might be the difference between blending in with the ambient temperature and lighting up the drone operator's screen. You mapped it out. The safe zone is 15 miles away. At a normal walking pace of 3 miles per hour, that's a 5-hour hike. Easy. You start at dawn. But the toddler wants to walk. Then they want to be carried. Then they need a diaper change. Then they drop their toy. Then you have to hide from a patrol. By noon, you have covered 3 miles. You are exhausted. The child is irritable. You aren't even close to the halfway point, and you've burned half your water. The sun is setting. The temperature is dropping. You are stuck in the grey zone. Too far from home to return, too far from safety to rest. You realise your pace isn't 3 miles per hour. With a family unit, your effective tactical speed is closer to 0.8 miles per hour. You calculated for a march. You are actually in a slow-motion crawl. The map optimist kills families. This is the person who looks at a topo map and sees a straight line, ignoring elevation, vegetation, and the entropy of children. They push the family too hard to meet an arbitrary deadline. We have to make the ridge by nightfall. So they skip rest breaks. They ignore the toddler's friction blisters. The result is a physical breakdown. The parent blows out a knee, carrying the extra weight. The child goes into a fatigue-induced meltdown that breaches silence discipline. Or worse, they try to take a shortcut through difficult terrain, a steep ravine, that is passable for an adult, but deadly difficult with a baby carrier. The moment you slip and twist an ankle, the evasion is over. You are static. And static targets are dead targets. Adjust your math. Plan for 1 mile per hour maximum. Build your route with micro-shelters, every 2 miles, places you can stop, hide, and address the child's needs. If you have 2 adults, use the leapfrog movement tactic. Adult A scouts ahead 50 yards, clear of the noise of the child. They signal clear. Adult B moves the child forward. This prevents you from walking blindly into an ambush while distracted by a toddler's question. If you are alone, you must stop every 10 minutes to listen. Stop the child, crouch, and listen. Use the stop, look, listen game with the kid. It slows you down, but it increases your situational awareness. Pre-position cache points if possible. Do not carry 3 days of water. Carry 1 day and know where the filter's services are. Lighten the load to increase agility. The goal isn't speed, it's continuous, sustainable movement without detection. Sometimes you cannot crawl. You will encounter sprint zones, open roads, bridge crossings, or gaps in the tree line that are under intermittent drone surveillance. You have a window of maybe 30 seconds to cross 50 yards of open ground. A toddler cannot sprint. They wobble, they trip. You cannot hold their hand and run. You will drag them or dislocate their shoulder. You must train the fireman carry or the snatch and grab. You need a way to instantly scoop the child up, secure them to your body, and sprint at full capacity without them flailing. This is where physical fitness becomes a survival skill. Can you sprint 50 yards carrying 40 pounds of live weight in your arms? If not, that open road is a wall. You need to practice this pickup move. It needs to be a game. Rocket ship! You yell the word, you scoop them up, you run. If they think it's a game, they hold on tight. If they think you are panicking, they fight you. This protocol isn't about comfort, it's about adjusting your physics to the reality of the family unit. You are slower, you are louder, you are hotter on the thermal scope, but you are also more motivated. A lone wolf might give up when the cold sets in. A parent looks at their child and finds another gear. That is your edge. But motivation without logistics is just tragedy waiting to happen. You need the gear, the calories, and the silence discipline. Go home tonight and look at your bug-out bag. Is there a pacifier? Is there a mylar blanket to mask the heat of the carrier? Have you practiced the quiet game? Because here is the thing about the drones. They are learning. Every day, the algorithms get better at distinguishing a deer from a human, a wind gust from a whisper. The window for error is closing. The silence discipline you practice today might work for the Mark I drones, but the Mark II units are coming online, and rumour has it they have heartbeat sensors. We need to talk about how to mask a pulse. That is in the next briefing. If you want to be ready for the evolution of the threat, you know what to do. Stay hidden. You survived the simulation. Now survive the reality. Equip yourself at the official supply depot. Because if the world is going to end, you might as well look prepared.